So Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne was released in the early 2000s and was the third major entry in the SMT series. This series has a lot of games. Fortunately, I'm not covering all of them, because to be honest, I can't really get into half of these, so I'll only be covering this one, 5, and of course the modern Persona games, and a couple of the spin-offs of the Persona series. So SMT3 takes place in a post-apocalyptic Tokyo. It's basically in the shoes of the Demi-Fiend, and that's really just the game. Obviously, there's a few other characters that I got mentioned, such as your two friends, Chiaki and Isamu, who are also two bosses depending on the ending you get. Then there's this crazy cult dude named Hikara. This other dude who kind of works with like these transport things, if I recall correctly, the Amala network. So you basically get to work with this guy, and he kind of helps you quite a bit until he kind of turns his back on you later into the story. Then you have your teacher, Yuka, who also can be sided with to get another ending in the game. Of course, then you also have the other antagonist, Lucifer, depending on what ending you go for. This one, from what I've heard, is affected by some of the bosses you fight. I didn't get this ending because the walkthrough I was using, it's kind of wasn't really that helpful, which was one of the issues I had with this game. So, obviously, with this story out of the way, let's get into the positives and the negatives and compare it to its spin-off series, Persona. So, my positives with SMT is the story. The story, while it isn't really completely there, is interesting. The idea of wandering around a post-apocalyptic Tokyo and encountering all sorts of demons and kind of getting to decide the fate of the world, it's an interesting idea. Personally, I really liked a lot of the bosses in these games, and the game was pretty easy at times. This game, and the series was kind of notorious for, being difficult, but fortunately, parts of this one were easy. But it's not too easy to the point where I'm just breezing through everything. The final boss himself is quite the challenge, and one of the coolest bosses in any game. The cons I have is that I don't like the traversal system. SMT's world kinda, probably controversial to say, but just kinda feels bland and just uninteresting. Comparing it to kind of other overworlds, it leaves a lot left to be desired. There's no dot in the overworld, and it's kind of confusing to navigate until where you're supposed to go next. Aside from that, I don't really have any other complaints with this one. So, I guess let's compare it to the Persona series. Obviously, SMT is probably going to get compared to Persona one way or another, either through gameplay or story or visuals. And obviously, going into this game, I expected it a lot. I expected it to be a lot like Persona, which I will admit is my first mistake, because SMT isn't really like Persona, at least not like modern Persona. It's its own thing, and if you're gonna play this game, you kinda gotta expect that, which was the mistake I made. After playing it and kinda having reasonable expectations, I still did enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy it enough to really do a second playthrough or to even want to continue playing for the series. And of course, obviously compared gameplay wise, there's some interesting things that it did do that Persona didn't do, or at least not until later. You have the demon negotiation system, which is pretty nice. You can talk to demons and get them to join your party. Persona 5 would, of course, have this, and if I recall correctly, Persona 1 and 2 might have had this, but I could be wrong about that one. Gameplay-wise, it's interesting. It's pretty similar to Persona, but instead as the one more system that Persona uses, you will of course get extra turns if you manage to land certain hits. Like I think if you get a weakness, you'll get you'll get an extra turn, and I think it'll continue for some of your party members. The only other issue I really have with this game is the fact that the demons themselves kind of really can't use items or anything. Of course, maybe I could be wrong, but from experience, I can't really use items on my demons, so if one of them got knocked out, it could kind of be a bit of a hassle. But other than that, I did enjoy this one. I do recommend it for those who haven't tried it yet. It's definitely an interesting game, but I would definitely say have reasonable expectations if you're going into this one for the first time. But other than that, goodbye, and I'll see you all next time.